We're going to have a full day. Excited that we have more people to admit. Hang on. Okay. We have the City of Tallahassee renewable energy consultants meeting with us, coming to our meeting at the end of our meeting to kind of just get our take on the clean energy plan. And they're doing this, they're going and seeing different stakeholders, and they were really interested in seeing us. So that's coming up, as well as some other good stuff. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right in. Before I do that, I'm going to remember to make you a co-host, Susan. All right. Okay. So, all right, everybody seeing my screen? My dog is going to bark all of a sudden. I don't know why. Ooh, sorry. There we go. One of those days. All right. Well, welcome. Great to see you all. We are, like I said, we got a full day. I'm very excited to be with you. Very excited for November, Thanksgiving. Time for us to all just kind of take a breath and appreciate life. So I have a brief devotion prayer that I really like that I thought I would share with you. I get this little small magazine from Unity called The Daily Word, and I love it. I've been reading it since I was a teenager, and my mom gave me a copy. So it's been really important to me in my life. When I've gone in and out of churches and in and out of more organized religion, I always have the Daily Word with me. So this one's called The Quiet Search by Melanie White. Rushing through life leaves me unsatisfied. Where is peace? In the stillness where struggle ends and I surrender to the oneness. Here, my breath guides me back to myself. In the present, God's holy creation with infinite possibilities. Be still and know I am. Just reading that makes me take a deep breath. So I hope that you all have had some time to rest and breathe and pray and meditate and just kind of get back to your center. Now we can go through and do some introductions, and I would ask that Susan, if you wanted to lead us, you're really good at that. That would be great.
Okay. Well, welcome to everyone. I can't really see everybody's screen, so I guess I'll go down the side there. But anyway, I'm Susan. Oh, there we go. That helps. I'm Susan. I'm with Holy Comforter Episcopal Church, and we haven't done anything new recently, but certainly moving forward with some of our plans now. So working on our winter garden, starting to get collard greens going and mustard greens. So, okay, so we're just basically everybody can say what house of worship you're from and anything else you want to share that's new. Let's see, how about Joanna?
Hi, I'm Joanna Novi. I'm with Temple Israel. Claudia Sperber asked me to sit in on today, and my sister Patricia Novi. The two of us help out with the garden at Temple Israel a lot, and my sister can't be here today, so I'm participating at Claudia's request, and glad to be here today. Thank you.
Welcome. Peter?
Hi, Peter Easton from the United Church in Tallahassee, kind of phasing back in after a couple of months of pretty heavy political work. I'm part of the Climate Change Task Force in the United Church, and we're gearing up now for an educational spiritual formation, we call it, session in January on creation care.
Wonderful. Doug. Everybody looks
There we
surprised.
are. I finally had unmuted. Doug Hahn with the Quaker meeting and a volunteer at the community garden in Frenchtown.
All right. And Gwen. Oh, you're muted, Gwen.
Okay, good morning. I'm Gwen Dixon with New Life United Methodist Church on the south side of Tallahassee. We have made application for a community garden. So I have spoken with them, and so we are waiting. They assured me they don't think there would be any problems, but it may be a little bit. And I tried to get out to the Divine Garden on Dent Street when I can.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you're a regular. That's great. And Dennis.
Hi, Dennis Howard from St. John's Episcopal Church. And I wear two hats there. One is for the vestry. I represent the Education Commission, the Adult Education Commission, and then I'm also on the Outreach Commission. And one thing that comes to mind while I have everybody's attention is I'm looking for topics to present to our parish on environmental protection and creation care. So if anybody has any ideas, you can just text me or and put my email in the chat. So appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, great. And Don?
Good morning. I'm Don Ruane from Good Shepherd Catholic Church, and we've started to work with some of the other Catholic churches in the area to form basically a creation care committee to look for ways to help educate our parishioners on ways that they can take better care of the world around us, whether it's an individual or a larger group. And we're starting to meet on a regular basis now. Penny Young, who I see at the bottom of my screen, she's a member of it from St. Thomas.
Okay. Sounds great. Jesse? Oh, you're muted.
Hi,
Hi.
Jessie Perry from St. Paul's United Methodist Church. And the collards that we planted from seed and mostly from seed, I think, are growing well. They're coming along, not as fast as we want them to. And we have some peppers left over from the summer that are, still producing, so we're not going to pull them up. I also work at the I Grow Garden on Dent Street along with Doug and Gwen and Susan and Kara and Claudia, and that's very satisfying work. And I love your background, Susan. I want to be there.
Yeah, me too. We need to all meet out there one day.
Yeah.
So what's this? Penny?
Hi, good morning. I'm Penny Young, and as Doug said, I'm with St. Thomas More Co-Cathedral, and we're working together and trying to include everybody, all the Catholic parishes in Tallahassee, in this green team. We're pulling from, just to add this little bit to what Don said, pulling from Pope Francis Laudato Si, which actually is having its 5th anniversary this year. And his message was a pretty clear one to all of us, that we need to take care of God's creation. Thank you.
Thanks. Claudia?
My name is Claudia, and I'm from Temple, Israel. It's so nice to see you. And Betsy, it's so nice to see you, and Glenn, and just the whole garden crew. It's great to be here. I kind of like to do all different kinds of stuff that helps, particularly around environmental issues and racial and economic justice issues, often from a faith perspective. I'm on the board at Temple Israel. I've been working more with getting a compost system going there, and that's been going well. My son and I completed the construction of 2 gorgeous compost tumblers that are on our front porch and are getting ready to go to Temple. And Joanna and her sister Patricia are going to be leading a great design of getting this all installed in the backfield of our temple. So that's exciting. I really, my goal is to nurture a green team that I think Joanna actually helped us start many months ago. I think Temple Israel is really ready to pull together a group of active lay leaders and congregants and get a green team going. So I'm excited about that. And I'm glad to be here today.
Okay. Thanks, Claudia. You're a little bit quiet. I don't know if you have a volume you can turn up, but we could hear you, but it was on the quiet side. So
can you help me with a sound check now? Is this better if I'm closer?
Much better.
Okay, I'll stay close up.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. And then we got Marianne. There's 2 with Marianne. Do you have 2 devices on? Up, and you're muted. There you are.
Yeah. Devices on because I cannot figure out on the big computer what's going on.
Okay.
But members of Trinity United Methodist have helped with the iGrow garden this summer, and I was thrilled to see that and everybody working together. It's just a great community effort. So we hope to expand on that, get more members through the winter months down there, and anxious to hear what you all have to say today. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Marianne. So the other Marianne is you?
Might be.
Okay, I'm sure there's not another Marianne. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. This is great to just see so much is going on just out of this group getting together. There's been a lot of growth. It's wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan. I'm Kara Fleischer. I don't know if I said that yet, but so glad to be back with you guys. I'm the Creation Care Leader at St. Paul's United Methodist and the Florida Creation Care Task Team Leader for the United Methodist Church. Dennis, I was thinking about you. I've been sharing a lot of stuff on the Facebook page. I'm not sure if you're on Facebook, but there's been so many trainings, amazing, really quality trainings that are free or low cost. And a lot of times if you go to those trainings, then you can use those recordings. I have a lot, we've amassed a lot of recordings the last couple of months with all these online events. So if you want to get back with me later on, I might be able to have some ideas for you. Okay, wonderful. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is hear from Susan about our learning together. And Susan, we really just do have 5 minutes because our guests are coming at noon. So if you have 5 minutes and Claudia has 5 minutes, okay, I'm going to make you, it's not allowing me to do co-host, so I'm gonna have to let you be the host if you want to share screen, and then you'll just have to make me host back to give it back to me. So I'm switching you to host now.
All right, bear with me because I have not shared screen before.
Okay, you should see like up below there's a little green share screen folder.
Yeah, I have to pull it up on my desktop, right? I have to put it on the screen and then share it. So let me do that quick.
Oh, okay.
I haven't. Okay, that is up. Now let me get this back.
It takes a little gyrations.
Yeah. Okay, there, that's back. All right, here we go. Never done it before. Desktop 1. Share. See what happens. Open system preferences. Uh-oh. What does that mean?
Uh-oh. I don't know.
Yeah, we may not. What's that?
Did you click just the screen?
Are you seeing anything? Or are you just seeing?
you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to get somebody to go through this with me when we're not in a meeting in a hurry.
Okay.
So
All
I'll
right.
talk a little bit about it. I don't know how many of you saw the attachment to Kara's newsletter, email, but there was an attachment there that was the whole Cool Congregation document with a lot of great resources and that sort of thing. And I will, oh, this is really funny. I'm sitting here holding my healthy snacks list instead of my presentation. Wait a minute, I've got it. Okay. Anyways, the Cool Congregations program, and it's through Interfaith Power and Light. And I'm just going to read a little bit here. I like this statement they had. Climate change is one of the biggest threats facing humanity today. The integrity of creation and life as we know it is jeopardized by our continued dependency on fossil fuels for energy. We build on the common tenets of all faiths to engage congregations in the sacred work of preserving and protecting the earth and future generations. Cool Congregations provides us with guidance in reducing our dependence on fossil fuels and modeling energy efficiency through conservation, renewable energy, sustainable grounds, and water conservation. In addition, they believe we are called to climate action. And it seems like Peter's very involved in that. There he is. And, we can do that through sermons, mass letter writing, opinion pieces, lobby days, participation in EPA public commenting, and other ways to be heard to influence public policy. So we're encouraged to do that, to encourage our own faith communities to do that. There, if you look at that document that was sent to you, there was a wonderful pie graph of just kind of telling you where in most buildings we find the most energy use. And the three largest are lighting, heating, and cooling. So you're encouraged to get an energy audit for your house of worship if you haven't done that yet. And that usually reveals a lot. And they have a lot of good advice for you. One of the big ones is changing over to LED lights. And our church community's been doing that. We did all the major lights that we use a lot. And then the ones that are left were kind of, as they quit working, we're replacing them with LEDs. So hopefully that's making, in fact, there were 2 floodlights outside that really were using a lot of energy, and we switched them to LED, and that's made a big difference. It's really helped. And then there's a nice list that's called 25 steps you can take for under $25. So be sure and open it up and look at that document and look at that page. It was page 20 is the page that's on. But that gives you a lot of good ideas, and it's not just energy use, it's conservation and some of the other things we can do. Some quick things are putting little signs over your light switches and over your AC control devices, just to remind people to conserve. Turn off the lights, keep the temperatures within this range. When you leave, turn it down to this range, which I know you, is it UCC? Anyway, Peter, your church has that because we've used that for Sierra Club meetings. And they say, keep it within this range, turn it down to this, turn it up to that when you leave. So that's great. And then, of course, communication, so important. So your newsletters with your house of worship, any kind of communication, sermons would be wonderful. We haven't gotten there yet, but things to communicate this message to the congregation will be really important. that is kind of it. I do recommend look at it real carefully, and especially those 25 steps. It's a checklist. So I love checklists. Just kind of start at the top and look at what can we do now and try to get some of those changes made.
Great.
And
Thank
you
you,
can
Susan.
join this, you know, if you want to be a part of kind of, you get a certification and that sort of thing. And there's also checking your own carbon footprint for your church. There's that resource within it too. Right?
Yes. Thank you. I dropped into the chat the link for the coolcongregations.org. Susan, if you can make me the host again, you just go up to my name and do that while I'm talking.
Okay.
So we decided the last meeting, and I might have should have said this before Susan spoke, but that we were going to have 2 different texts that our group is going to be working through over the next semester. And one of them is this Cool Congregations text. It's free, and we were going to go through it, and Susan's our leader on that. So she's going to tell us what we're going to focus on every month. And then the hope is that we all can take these steps within our congregations. And at the end of the text, we will have implemented some of these ideas. And some people might even want to take it all the way to where they get the Cool Congregations seal of approval that is a designation you can get when you're done. And the other text, so that was more of like the nuts and bolts of sustainability. And then the other text, Claudia is going to be leading us through. And today she chose chapter 4 to be able to share with us. And so Claudia, let's see, I don't have your picture up. Did you want your picture up, or do you want you to be able to be seen?
We can, why don't we not worry about it? I think we just have a few minutes now.
Okay, yeah.
So let's
you can have your 5 minutes, that's fine, but yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that's cool.
Okay.
Can people hear me okay? How's my sound quality?
It's better.
Okay, okay, great. Susan, thank you so much. Susan and I both volunteered to help lead discussion and see how those discussions can lead to action on these environmental principles. And I love that Susan, the way she's going to walk us through, I think every month, is really action steps that we can take in our own houses of worship to make changes happen. My department is a little bit more the inspirational, the theological, and the interfaith spiritual that is the underpinnings of the nourishment to help us stay strong and to make these changes happen. I've just got a few minutes today, so I want to introduce the book. I'm just going to hold it up here. So it's called The 11th Commandment. Can't say I love the name, but I love the collection. This is an interfaith set of essays by Muslim, Jewish, and a wide Christian denominations, all speaking about theology, interpretation, and environmental action. This is an opportunity for us to learn about different faith traditions and different analyses, sometimes even a different window onto our own faith. I want to start with chapter 5, which is a Jewish perspective, simply because that's my home base. So next month, we're going to be discussing more this chapter 5, this Jewish tradition. I would love it if everyone would buy a Kindle or a hard copy of this book. But if you can't or don't want to, don't worry about it. We're going to talk about a basic principle each time, and we'll all be able to reflect on it, and we'll all hopefully be nourished by it. So don't let not having done the reading prohibit you from coming. We want you to come no matter what. So the brief thing that I'm going to offer on this chapter now, which is again a Jewish chapter, we're going to talk about the same Jewish principle next time. The time after, we're going to go sequentially after 5 to chapter 6 to chapter 7. So after we're done with this Jewish chapter, we're going to move on to a Muslim essay, and then a really beautiful Christian denomination essay, and then we'll keep going through. Let me take a pause. I can talk fast, sometimes too much, and I don't know about the sound quality. How am I doing?
You're doing just fine.
Okay.
Yep. Some of our
So,
guests are arriving for 12 o'clock, but I would love for you to take a few more minutes to share the
yeah,
rest of your thing.
so I don't want to rush, and that is what this this essay is about. The essay is about Shabbat, which many of you probably know is the Jewish Sabbath. The Jewish Sabbath is not usually considered a source of action for environmental change. The Sabbath is usually like taking a break from the busyness of the world, including all of the urgency and stress that we all feel about climate change, about politics. Many of us are overextended. Many of us are stressing. Many of us feel a little impotent about how to make changes in our houses of worship. There's all kinds of stuff. So this Jewish perspective that we'll talk more about next time is a way to address that. And it's a way to use the idea of Shabbat or the idea of taking a rest to rejuvenate and replenish and simplify and then rise up with greater clarity so that the actions we take can be more effective, can reach more people, and we feel less like that. So I want to close on this note of Shabbat. I'm excited also, as a Jew, there's not a lot of us in the Panhandle. So this is also an opportunity for me to share with you all, as well as my Jewish friends that are here, what is our faith and how does our faith relate to yours and relate to caring about the environment. So Shabbat, as we'll talk more about next time, and hopefully we'll have that chance again to read chapter 5, which has a beautiful title called And the Earth Was Filled with Breath. Very spiritual, but also very concrete. So in the spirit of Shabbat, I want to invite us all to take a deep breath and to take a pause and to wish each other a Shabbat Shalom. So I'm going to wish you all Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
Shalom.
Thank you, Claudia. I put in the chat the name of the book, and it's on Kindle, Amazon, and I don't believe it's very expensive. I think it might be even under $10. So definitely encourage everyone to get that so you can read along. But if not, you know, our two Learning Together leaders will have more time at the next meeting to get a little deeper into what our chapters are. But we did have the opportunity to have the Clean Power Plan representatives come talk to us today. So we definitely wanted to make sure we were able to do that. So I would like to welcome our Clean Power Plan representatives and just welcome you to our Tallahassee Green Faith Alliance meeting. We are a group of interfaith group here in Tallahassee who are concerned and feel passionate about the environment and how our houses of worship can be part of the solution for taking care of creation. So we're really glad to be with you today, and you're with us today. And we're also very proud of our city for taking these steps to go 100% renewable. And so we're just looking forward to, you know, answering any questions that you have. And I'm not sure who the point person is going to be. So I believe it might be Michael. And is Michael with us?
Hey, Kara.
Hey, Michael.
And everyone, good afternoon. I'm Michael Olson. I'm the city's Clean Energy Plan manager. And as Kara alluded to, if you haven't heard already, last year the City Commission made a formal commitment, a resolution to transition our community to 100% clean renewable energy by the year 2050 with some interim goals. Joining me this afternoon, though, is our consultant team. So as part of this process, the city hired a consultant to help shepherd at least initially, community discussions around how we might get there, what folks' perceptions, reservations may be, how they can get engaged. We're just at the beginning of this journey. So, Kara, I appreciate you and your group extending an invitation for us to join you this afternoon. I'd like to turn the floor over to, it looks like Jalicia, to introduce the consultant team and kind of lead this afternoon's discussion. So Jalicia?
Awesome, thank you for that, Michael. So again, my name is Jalicia Lewis. I serve as the project coordinator at ESP Media. We're one of the consultants as far as this clean energy plan. I'm joined by my colleague, Jamie Van Pelt, who serves as the president of ESP Media. We're also joined by some consultants from Atlanta helping us with this plans. We have Megan O'Neill from South Base and Ernesto Perez from GDS Associates. And so together we form the consultant team that has been working with the city to help oversee the development of this plan. So as Michael mentioned, last year the City Commission voted, and as some of you may know, to transition the city to 100% clean renewable energy by 2050, with the benchmark of all the electric vehicles in the city transportation fleet being on electric energy by 2035. And so we're really at the beginning of the development of this plan. And so we're here really to try and engage the community across all sectors. I think the faith community has an important role to play. And so this is one of the first calls that we're having, really to get the public feedback so we know how to make this plan successful and incorporate as many voices as possible. And so while we're doing this public engagement, we want to let you all know that there also, there's another side of that. So we're doing an integrated resource plan to help work with the utility to help that transition be as smooth and efficient as possible. So there's two parts of it. We're working with the community to get feedback. We're also working hand in hand with the city utility. And that's where I believe we're in a unique position to make this this plan very unique, being that Tallahassee owns its own utility. So we can really do this efficiently. And while 2050 seems like it might be a little bit ambitious, we really believe that we can, meet these benchmarks. And of course, all you all are going to help with that process. And so during this call, we're really trying to get as much feedback as possible. So we want to encourage you to be as honest as you can, because this really does help us develop and make sure that we're setting the targets that we want and that we're incorporating many voices as we do it. So before we sort of get started with asking some of these discussion prompts, it's going to be more of a conversation. I didn't want to open the floor if there were any questions from members on the team. Is there anything that we can address before we dive right in?
I have a question. I live outside the city limits. Does this program extend into Leon County at all?
Yeah, and so Michael might be able to answer this a little bit better, but we are, as far as the plan development, we are trying to work trying to answer that question, working with, Talquin as well, and see if, so that's part of the conversation that we're going to be having. I don't know if you can add more insights to that, Michael.
Don, I would just ask, are you a city utility customer? Some of our utilities extend beyond city limits to include gas or water.
Yes, I am on the electric system.
Oh, you are?
But I was curious if there may be other parts of the county that are not. So I wondered about them.
Yeah, and it's certainly, as Jalicia alluded to, it's firmly on our radar screen. This community transition to 100% clean renewable energy is going to have fuzzy boundaries, especially when we start talking about the transition of our transportation sector to electric vehicles or non-fossil fuel vehicles. You've got folks who may work in Tallahassee but live outside our community, and there will be choices and impacts and opportunities. So we recognize while our electric service territory has a very clear boundary and who's our customer or not, we do know that, or we do keep in mind that Tallahassee is part of this larger Big Bend region, and we have to keep those aspects in mind too. Not to jinx it because we're still in hurricane season, but on that transportation question, how would evacuations look from the coast coming through Tallahassee down the road if all our fueling stations are electric only and not gasoline? So we're trying to anticipate all the different what ifs as we look 5, 10, 30 years down the road, try to make decisions with what we have. And as Jalicia alluded to, we don't want to assume we've got it all figured out. So we're starting with you all, with the community right from the get-go. The city is a participant in this clean energy plan process. We have known the utility, so we're going to have a lot of input in it because we've got intimate knowledge of some of the challenges we see from the utility side, but we certainly want to hear from you all what questions may not be on our radar screen, reservations, also interest ways to be engaged as well. So with that, it looks like Claudia might have a question.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming and sharing your time with us. The question I have is about the Wolani development. I'm starting just now to follow this more. When I watched a portion of the commissioners meeting, and I heard from Commissioner Matlow that the city did literally no fiscal assessments, no stormwater runoff assessments, like very, very little concrete planning that is supposed to get done before an absolutely enormous Southwood-like or even larger construction happens. And I'm a little speechless. So I'm wondering, just the effects of this on our utilities alone seem unknown, unquantified, and possibly really bad, or at least very impactful. What's your relationship to the concerns I'm talking about?
That's a great question, Claudia. With respect to the larger kind of question of planning, and I think to date, and I don't know, I'm kind of like in the same boat with you, and perhaps I should know more about the Wolani plantation specifics, but I think it does give a lens into, even within the city, there are focuses, if you will, but part of this clean energy development process, part of my role as the city's clean energy plan manager is to begin to develop those networks like you just alluded to. How well is the utility planning office integrated with our city county planning office, our Blueprint 2000? These other groups who I think we might assume from the outside are all talking with one another, but I think if you pull the lens aside, you may find that there's much more coordination we can do. And so I know I'm kind of dancing around the answer. First, to acknowledge I don't have the details on Wolani, but I've certainly begun reaching out to folks in the city county planning office, in the city's growth management office, which manages the permits and all, as well as in-house with the city's facilities and building facilities groups. So that coordination is starting to, I think that coordination happened somewhat inorganically in the past, but we're taking we're starting to build those networks to take a much more intentional and mindful look ahead and begin to think in terms not only of impacts right now in that construction stage, but down the road, to the extent our homes being built so that they're solar ready, that rooftops can, easily accommodate solar, that homes could easily accommodate electric vehicle charging, that we make simple, cost-effective decisions now to put infrastructure in place to facilitate those types of opportunities down the road. Claudia, I want to be able to tell you and the rest of the group, yeah, we've got that well planned and sorted out, but I think the reality is there's much more we can do. And I think with the City Commission's resolution, hey, let's get serious about it. We're putting a goalpost at the end here. I think that's giving us the not impetus, but the motivation to coordinate more closely. So with that, Claudia, before we jump to other questions, did I give you enough of an answer? I apologize if it was a somewhat indirect, but I also wanted to be honest as well.
I really appreciate that. It's regretful that there's it doesn't seem like there's the proper kinds of procedures and checks and balances and concerns going along with this. So I wish you had a more informed answer, but what I love is that you're answering with what's true and what's going on. So that allows us to stand with our feet on the ground and know how to proceed.
Thank you, Claudia. And I might add, I'm also responding from my perspective or lens, which is to say, I can't speak to other departments within the city, what level of coordination and all going on. But I will say, I think part of my charge as the city's clean energy plan manager, working with the consultant team, is to begin to recognize, hey, where can we begin to do better, especially up front in this planning stage where it's infinitely a lot easier and more cost effective to begin to make these decisions than down the road when we're looking at potentially more costly retrofits and rebuilding. And so certainly more work to be had there. So thanks, Claudia. Peter, I think I saw your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if you could say a little more about the how your plans dovetail with the efforts and concerns of individuals, as individual households and institutions to adopt their own solar energy. Obviously, there's the possibility of subscribing to the solar display and panel out near the airport, but putting solar on one's roof, our church has been looking into that possibility. So how do you dovetail with that, and if in any ways of encouraging it so that it really becomes everyone's affair?
Yeah, well, one thing I like to start off with is a bit of self-promotion for the city. So taking the leap to this 100% clean, renewable energy goal or resolution is actually built upon decades of work the city's done in promoting not only clean energy, but energy efficiency and conservation. So since the 90s, the city utility has offered a whole host of ways to engage the public through free home and commercial energy audits to grants, rebates and on-bill financing for a whole host of energy efficient appliances and upgrade ceiling insulation grants. Our on-bill financing or our loan program allows for financing or funding upwards of 20,000, I think, for solar, rooftop solar for residents and small commercials. We also, through our loan program, allow for electric vehicle charging at homes. So there are some measures we have taken to date to assist customers who want to take those initial steps. And Peter, you alluded to the solar farm out at the airport, which we're proud to say is the world's largest airport-based solar farm facility, at clocking in at just about 62 megawatts, which may not be impressive outside the utility, but 62 megawatts of solar is a really significant number for a city of our size. Honestly, it begins to push the utilities' ability to add more without restructuring how we manage the grid, without bringing in utility scale energy storage to help us deal with the ups and downs of where solar is. But what's significant about the farm out at the airport is that it is, in a way, and I don't want to co-opt the term, but it's a community solar project. So through our Tallahassee Solar program, that's how we've branded it, customers who may not have the ability to put solar on their rooftop, maybe there's trees on their property or the roof isn't built to withstand the additional load of rooftop solar, or maybe the orientation isn't ideal to capture that south-facing sun. They could otherwise subscribe to the Tallahassee Solar program to an allocation or a portion of that airport facility. So all of that is to say, there are ways to date where we have engaged our customers and worked with them to meet them where they are. We do recognize, though, that we've still got a ways to go. And while we're looking at other sites for utility scale solar, part of bringing the consultant team on board is to help us identify, getting to 100% clean renewable energy is going to take all hands on deck. So the engineering team behind the consultants is there to help us recognize, all right, what level of participation do we need from customers who otherwise would be good candidates for solar? What are the barriers or the hurdles that stand in the way? Is it an equity issue, an economic issue, a technical issue where we might have to upgrade our service in that area? All of those things will be born through the consultants' work behind the scenes as we as we learn from folks like you, Peter, and through other conversations. What level of interest is there from the community to meet us on this? Because in the past, it's largely been a utility industry that's kind of built on the supply side. We'll make it happen. Customers, you enjoy the product of it. I think as we begin to look at the crystal ball down the road, energy is going to be more of a two-way partnership where customers may be giving as much as receiving, as they plug electric vehicles in, and we may have excess solar on some days where we might create rates and incentives to charge up vehicles or water heaters to store that energy so that maybe they don't need to plug in or use it overnight. So there's all these kinds of great questions.
Yeah,
Peter, then Kara.
Yeah, just one other real brief question. To what degree does your program now include other methods like I think of groundwater cooling and heating, you know, as another thing that brings down bills? Are those other things part of the plan?
I think that's part of what will develop through the consultant. So at this stage, we don't actually have the plan. We have activities the city has done, and we have the goals in place. Over the next 12 plus months, we'll begin to develop what are the pathways forward. And as you alluded to, Peter, maybe one of those is for the city to develop education, messaging, maybe incentives around ground source heat pumps and other high efficiency appliances that work for other communities. Maybe they're a good fit here for Tallahassee as well.
Because we happen to have a groundwater thing ourselves, which means that all the cooling starts from 68 degrees, which is the temperature of the water 60 feet underground. So you don't have to do as much heating or cooling.
That's right. Yep. And it's more consistent than what we see and more efficient than air source. So certainly, but Peter, as you might recognize, it's also costly, you know, up front. So those may be some challenges. You see those savings over time, but what are those hurdles? And we think we know. So what are the mechanisms we can put in place to help overcome? I see Susan has her hand raised, but maybe Kara first, since, and I'm sorry, my consultant Jalicia, I didn't want to dive in, but as soon as I get the floor, I can't stop. This stuff's just too exciting. So,
well, and we might have to have you back. Yeah, but no, this is great. I think that if we let Jalicia, did I say that right? Yeah, okay, go. They might answer some of our questions, honestly. So I think we should give you a chance. But I just wanted to encourage everybody to look at the resolution, and it's at talgov.com. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, but I was part of that Tally 100 group that brought the resolution to the city, and it was a year-long process of all kinds of stakeholders, and it was equitable. And that's a big part of this, is to have it be a just and equitable transition. So I did see your question about that, Dennis. So definitely that's the case. And I just want to say, from my church's perspective, we would love to be able to do more energy efficient things, including solar, but our real problem is just the upfront costs. You know, church budgets are very, 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 very tight. It's been my big goal just to transition us to use the energy from the solar farm. And even that difference has been challenging. So I think if there was a way to, you know, get churches on board, I think you would be able to reach a lot of people. I think there's a huge desire and appetite for it, because it will save money in the long run, which is a really big plus. But unless you're like one of these really large mega churches that can just lay out that kind of money, that's been the challenge for us. And so we've been doing more low-hanging fruit things, like we got the audit, we're doing the lighting, we're doing things like that. But just so you know, that's kind of where we are. And I think most people in this group is we're very interested about renewable energy. And so we just have to figure out how to get there. So if programs were set up for churches, you know, or houses of worship, that would really help us get there.
Awesome. Awesome. We appreciate all the feedback and even the questions. This definitely helps us know what's top of mind for y'all. So we really appreciate that. I did want to be mindful of the time, because we did have some open discussion questions that we probably have already, some of you already touched on, but I definitely want us to get into those. I'm going to turn it over to Megan O'Neill at Southface, who's gonna lead that.
Sure. Thank you, Jalicia. So I'll guide us through 4 potential questions, but if we go in another direction with the time we have, that's perfectly fine. So our first leadoff question was just, what are some of your initial reactions to this clean energy transition goal that exists, and what reservations, if any, might you have?
And that's to be, the community-wide is 100% renewable by 2050, and the city government is 100% renewable by 2035. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Somewhere I read, and it may have just been been restated. So I apologize that I'm not seeing the text in front of me, but it seemed like a little wiggle room was left. It was say like work toward, there was somewhere there in the language. Is it we definitely are going to try to be 100% by 2050? Or is it sort of more of a transition kind of thing?
So Michael, jump in and correct me if I'm misstating anything, but the resolution says that the city is going to be responsible for producing more clean renewable energy than it consumes within city limits. And it lays out some specific energy types like sun, wind, hydro, geothermal, sustainable biopower, and then leaves a little wiggle room there for any technologies that are not currently known so that we can make sure to fold in new developments that come along.
Okay. I just need to read it. I know I need to look. Thanks.
Sure, Douglas.
A question I have is this a time for questions to respond to what you said, or where are we at?
Always time for questions.
We don't get to hear from you all very often, so I just wasn't sure where we're at. Okay, so my question is, I, and then probably all of us here, we love this plan. We would love nothing more than to see Tallahassee on 100% renewable energy. My question is, I'm not sure that we can count on state leadership or who's going to be in the mayor's position within the city, or who's going to be seated on both the county and the city commissions, and where does the funding come from? Like how can we say that we're going to commit to this when it may be unclear? I'm just wondering how can this be doable, given our political landscape and the differing values around putting money into environmental concerns.
Claudia, good question. And I don't know if this is necessarily the forum to hear concerns versus hear and respond. You know, my initial thought, and we have heard this concern as well with, you know, the political landscape pro and against, and, you know, potentially changing every so often. What I find helpful is to look at, well, what's the industry doing? And although we are a municipal utility, we are at the core a utility. We are what's considered an enterprise fund. We set our rates to cover our costs. And, you know, as I mentioned sort of in the preamble, energy conservation, clean energy has been part of the utilities toolbox for decades now. And we've been able to offer those incentives, those programs without much upward pressure on rates. We're still fairly competitive. So all of that's to say, even if you look at the national landscape, utilities are seeing the longer picture or the long road and starting to make these transitions from a business perspective. You know, when President Trump came into power, he quickly pulled us out of Kyoto protocols, or the Paris Accords rather, and stopped any Clean Power Plan acts or regulations. However, if you look at industry's response to it, we're still retiring coal plants across the nation, still starting to make investments in utility scale solar. So I think utility as a business entity is looking, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 years out, kind of seeing if, lack of a better phrase, sort of the writing on the wall, and making their decisions based on that and not necessarily the current political climate. It certainly helps to have a progressive, forward-thinking commission that's got your back, but I think you'll find that the train has left the station, and we're moving in this direction.
Yeah. And I'll just add quickly before handing it over to Doug, but I think the structure that the city is really employing to develop this plan through its community engagement and its direct integration and building it out within the utility is going to really help ensure its longevity across administrations, just from a structure standpoint, because it's just baked, it's going to be baked into so many different elements of the process that should really help strengthen it. Right, then Douglas.
How are you coordinating with other government entities? There's considerable state and federal properties within our city limits, particularly the university.
Yeah, so obviously they are big players, big contributors, and I'll admit, big customers to the city utility. As it turns out, just last week, we had a similar conversation as we're having with your group with those large institutions. So we met with representatives from FSU, with TCC, with Leon County Schools, with the County Sustainability Office. We had invited FAMU. They weren't able to make that initial conversation. And as you might imagine, both TMH and Capital Regional Medical Center, who are large institutions in our community, they're all hands on deck with the pandemic still and a million other things. So they weren't able to make last week's call as well. But like you all, the conversation includes them. And, you know, we're hearing what we would imagine we'd hear. Hey, budgets are tight. You know, the pandemic has done a lot to kind of change the landscape. And we've got day-to-day issues we're working with, you know, just to find the bandwidth to, you know, begin to consider other things. That's where we're at, Doug, and the rest on the phone. We're at that listening stage. We don't want to assume, or I certainly don't want to assume, you know, the goodwill and support translates into 100% participation. We recognize there's going to be hurdles along the way. These conversations are helping give us a lens into what some of those are, so that as the consultant team behind the scenes begins to identify, here are viable pathways forward, here are the various trade-offs. So if we weight environment higher than economic, or we weight equity and economy over air quality, you know, all of these mechanisms will have benefits, consequences, trade-offs. So this initial conversation is to kind of gauge where everyone's thinking is, and Doug, to your point, invite folks to the show to be engaged in that process. We'll be circling back with you all later this spring, or next spring rather, to then start looking at the pathways forward and helping us determine, all right, what are the elements? And we expect we'll hear something unique through the Green Faith Alliance, then Leon County Schools, then neighborhoods and residences. And that's where I think the big challenge will be. How do we then translate all that feedback into actionable next steps? How do we start to develop the institutions and the incentives and the education to begin that implementation stage? But we're not there yet. We're still in that sort of network building stage. Doug, did that answer your question, or did I start to go off track there? Okay, thank you. And we're closing in on the quarter till I'm available to keep going, but want to be mindful of time.
I have another.
Looks like.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Will there
maybe
be,
Don?
Will there be some job creation involved? I mean, I've seen, information about places in California that are giving low-income people jobs to help put solar on homes, and of course manufacturing too. If we can bring that into the community, I'm hoping with the new administration that there'll be some funds for those kind of things too, if they're not stopped by the Senate.
Yeah.
The new federal administration.
Yeah.
Megan?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So is that being considered in your planning?
Yes, absolutely. We've hired a consultant to help calculate the economic and a lot of social impacts of various clean energy scenarios. So we'll be able to tell you, using Tallahassee specific data, how many jobs will be created by different policy scenarios we map out, as well as things like what might be the equivalent of removing, or one of the calculations they'll show is if we go this pathway, that would have the clean air equivalent of reducing X number of cars from the road, and lots of different metrics. So things like potential healthcare savings from air quality improvements and averted cases of respiratory disease, as well as potential bill impacts of different policies and potential savings. So we'll be, as we're doing our stakeholder engagement in the coming year, we'll be rolling out a lot of interesting analyses as we dig into this modeling.
And I think it does have the potential for job growth, job training, and all. It's hard to know just how deep and wide and specifics, because we're still early in that planning process. But if our experience with our existing incentive programs is any indication, we're finding small investments in terms of rebates, grants, and our loan program equate to significant economic development for local contractors and retailers of appliances and HVAC installers and green builders and stuff. So we anticipate economic development and job creation to be a part of it. Don, I think you.
I did. I have a question that kind of follows up from what Claudia was bringing up, only from an industry side of it. Sometimes big utilities don't like local utilities getting into what they consider their territory. You've seen it maybe with fiber optics and the extension of Wi-Fi and broadband. They will challenge small entities in court to try and keep their share of the market on something. Have you sensed any pushback at all from the big power companies that you might be intruding into their areas in any way? Or do you anticipate that possibility if you have to develop some legal frameworks, for example, to establish wind systems or solar entities in the future?
Gosh, I wish I had a crystal ball to look into the future and be able to answer that with some qualification. What I'll share with you today, I might have to take my city employee hat off and just say, well, this is Michael Olson speaking. I don't know what the city's kind of official response might be, or what's the word I'm looking for, or kind of a meaningful response. But what I can say is it's not lost on me that a transition to 100% clean renewable energy is going to have an impact on certain business sectors. Now, while big power companies and us, I think we operate cooperatively not kind of in a competitive environment. But as we start to look at things like, hey, if electric vehicles do become the default moving down the road, and if you look at the mechanics of or engineering of electric vehicles under the hood, you begin to see, hey, there's a lot less moving parts here, perhaps a lot less maintenance needed. There's a whole industry that relies on and thrives on secondary parts market for internal combustion engines and repair shops and all. And those industries, well, again, I can't speak knowledgeably. This is all kind of peripheral, as you know, I read articles and stuff. You know, I imagine as we begin to make significant movement and momentum into this arena, that industries are going to have to shift along the way. And some of those shifts may be more burdensome than others. And part of these initial discussions is to kind of get a handle on what those may be that we're not considering, and how can we consider those, because they're every bit a member of our community, our business community, our neighbors and all. And whether that's to accommodate or just to help in the transition, to say, hey, it's inevitable. How can we begin to help you all rebuild, retool and all? And I think a lot of what I'm reflecting on may be happening in other communities. And this kind of goes to my response to Claudia's question earlier. You know, clean coal or coal as a resource in the future, we're just not seeing utilities putting in orders for new coal. They're in fact continuing to retire coal facilities in place of solar and other clean alternatives. You know, for those miners in West Virginia and other communities that, you know, rely on utilities as a customer, you know, for their product, there needs to be some consideration. Well, how do these communities, these towns begin to shift towards this new kind of reality? And when does that shift happen? Again, I am not an expert or intimately knowledgeable on that, but I do look at those types of questions and issues, and I say, how is that going to play out here in Tallahassee, and which of our community members do we need to have maybe a deeper discussion with? And looks like we're pushing time. Kara, I think you gave us a little bit more room here. Dennis, did you have maybe a comment or a question?
It's a comment, I think. I just wanted to reflect on what Kara said earlier about houses of worship being interested in making changes that are helpful from an energy conservation standpoint, but being inhibited in doing so because they don't have the resources. And I think just small grants could make a big difference in whether houses of worship are able to move forward in a positive way and help be a part of the plan. And also, you get the added advantage of having an audience that hears about how this program works and sees the benefits of it and will be disciples of keeping God's creation in good work. So I just wanted to add that.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you. Well, thank you all so much for all this feedback. This is really helpful. I think there'll probably be more questions that you have. So we definitely encourage you. You can email our project team. I dropped the email in the chat, but I'm sure we can also circulate that. That's the cleanenergy@talgov.com. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot us an email there and someone from our team will respond. We also do have a clean energy survey that we're trying to get as many participants from the community to take. You can find that at the TalGov website. It's on the main site. Go to talgov.com. Encourage you to circulate that throughout your membership, through any your services and make sure that we get as many people to take that as possible. But we definitely want to continue this conversation. I think you've mentioned coming back. I think there's still lots of conversation to be had. So we'll be definitely interested in doing that, in the spring and just keeping this conversation going. So we appreciate y'all for letting us to come on board.
Absolutely. Well, we were so glad you were here. And, if you had more of those specific questions that Megan was trying to work through that you wanted to share with me, I can make sure to get that to our group, and maybe we can, send some emails and things like that. So you guys have my email address. I would welcome that. I think, just at least from my perspective, I think this is a very friendly group. And I know when we were working on this resolution, it was aspirational, but we know that technology is changing really fast, more fast than we can even imagine. And so I know we were hopeful that we're going to be ahead of these benchmarks. And having a commission that voted, unanimously for it and has taken really the sustainability message as, kind of their, raising the flag for it. I feel really excited that this amount of care is being put into this plan. I think it's a great sign. That you all are being so careful to talk to so many groups, and we're honored that we were one of them.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kara. Thank you all.
Appreciate you. Okay. Bye. Take care. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
All right, guys, let me, we have just a few minutes left, and I have some exciting stuff I want to talk to you about. So thank you for that great conversation. And I hope that, it's just kind of scratching the surface. I'll send an email out with the resolution so you guys can go and read it and, just get familiar with it. And that way, if you have more questions, we can make sure that we get those answered. But we have a couple of opportunities, and I know that this group is really, hold on, I'm trying to share this. We have some opportunities to do some work in the community. I know that our group is very service focused, so I definitely want to make sure I hit these with you. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, thank you for your patience. So many little things to click. Okay. So we have the Sowing Seeds, Sowing Comfort, Thanksgiving Blessing boxes. These, I think we talked about this at the last meeting, but this is Elder Ivy, who works very closely with Tallahassee Food Network and Maisha, and they are collecting these items to take to different households in Frenchtown, and would love to have the support of our groups. I know that, our church has another group. We're also supporting the Annie Project, I think that's what it's called, and other groups. But I'm gonna donate to this directly, and I would just encourage you guys to think about it, because this is truly like on the ground, grassroots. Elder Ivy knows these families and who has the needs, and she collects everything and takes them to their houses, and it's pretty amazing. The other thing I wanted to share with you is about the Seminole Manor Garden. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with this garden, but it was started actually through the Tallahassee Food Network a few years back on city land. And it was a thriving garden for many years, but they have started a food bank because this is in the 32304 area code. And there's such a need for, food assistance that a lot of the community energy has gone into this food bank. So their garden has fallen a little bit into disrepair, and the organizer has been in touch, and we talked to Maisha about it with Tallahassee Food Network, and we feel like this would fit right into our our desire to help food insecurity in our community, especially in this 32304 area code that was shown to have more poverty than any area code in Florida. So the idea is to have a work day to help them kickstart their garden. And we would take our Divine Dirt team over to this Seminole Manor Community Garden, as well as other groups. This would be a really community effort. And in a few hours, we think we could clean out those, I think it's about 8 raised beds that have weeds in them. We could take the weeds out, we can add dirt, and we can plant some collard green seeds. And then all of those greens will be used right there in this neighborhood for that food pantry. They are a food desert, and she said the need has just grown during COVID. So wanted to see what you all thought about this. We were shooting for not this Monday, but next Monday to get enough time to get those collard seeds in the ground. And then we were going to ask if, people wanted to bring a bag of dirt as a donation. I think the dirt does need to be replenished. And your tools and your masks and all that. And I think in a couple of hours, we could really get them kickstarted. And then she said that their volunteers will be able to maintain it and water and harvest and everything, but they just need some community help getting it back up and running. So I hope
You might want to
that
note that it's a food desert, not a food dessert. We got a food
Thank
dessert here.
you. I was typing this very fast before the meeting because we just finalized it this morning, but thank you, the editor. Great. Yeah, does anybody feel like this is something that they would like to be a part of and share with their houses of worship?
That is Thanksgiving week. I know with COVID, probably not many of us are traveling, but anyway, there's a possibility my family will be traveling, just to let you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd love to do it.
I'll call it to people's attention.
Okay, great. I'll fix the flyer and then share it. I know it's Thanksgiving week, and we did go back and forth with this, but the sooner we can get these seeds in the ground, the better, obviously. Excuse me. And this coming up Monday seemed a little bit too soon. So Maisha said that she has other groups that she'll mobilize as well. This is way out Jackson Bluff past TCC, if you're familiar with that area. So that
Kara,
was some, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you know if they need gardening tools that can be left there? Or do you know of any gardening operation that needs tools? Because I have a friend who has a lot of gardening tools to give away.
Wow.
iGrow.
Yeah, I would say between this and iGrow, that would be wonderful. She said they had some things in their shed there, but truly, between them and iGrow, that would be a really big help. If you wanted to bring it to this event and see what was needed, and then the excess could go to Maisha, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kara, just a thought, like next Monday, since there's not a lot we're doing at the other places, maybe some of us that are there could go over, work a little bit in the garden and then go over and see it at least, and what's going on.
That's a great idea.
Even get started if we can, if it's cooler.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I saw some pictures, and that'd be really helpful because there might even be some wood deterioration on those raised beds. So you can still plant if they're not perfect, but it might be nice if we wanted to even change out some boards or something, who knows? Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to run that by you guys. Of course, we have our Divine Dirt Mondays in the iGrow garden, and it's looking amazing. The regulars out there are so dedicated, and Maisha's been extremely happy with all the results. So good job, you guys. You really are putting, your time and effort into fighting food insecurity in our communities. And I think that's it feels like we're really following our mission in that ministry. And what I love about it is Divine Dirt doesn't always have to be at the iGrow garden. Maisha said that that's part of her mission too with Tallahassee Food Network, is lifting up all of these gardens. And, they actually helped start that garden out in Seminole Manor. So it's nice that we have this core group now and we can go to wherever we're needed.
Since you've been doing those operations, has there been any contraction of COVID by any of the volunteers ascribed to those?
No, not at all. We wear our masks, we keep distance, and we're outside. And usually we don't have probably more than 10 people over the whole garden, I would say, don't you think, Susan? About that. Yeah, no, we haven't.
5 to 10, you know. Yeah.
That's
one
helpful
thing.
information for me to take back to our church.
Yeah, that's one thing with the gardening. We're doing it all over the state now for Creation Care, and it's one of the few ministries that have been doing very well because people can still do it safely. So, okay, well, did anyone have any other new business that they wanted to share? No? Okay, great. I asked 2 other people to close us in prayer, and neither of them were able to attend. Would anyone like to close us in prayer? And if not, that's okay. Okay, well, I will do it. I just wanted to say how thankful I am for every single one of you and all the work that you're doing. It has been a really challenging time, I know, and this call has really meant so much to me and so many others to know that, you know, so many people are working towards this goal, and I feel very encouraged that this is going to be a really big year. And so a lot of our hard work is going to be paying off. So thank you all and keep it up. All right, I will close this in prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for every single one of these people who care so deeply about your creation. Please help fortify them and inspire them and give them everything that they need to be able to make a difference for your world. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
All right, everybody. So our next meeting, did I write it down? It's December, what is it, Susan? Do you know?
10.
It's that second Thursday.
Second Thursday.
Yeah, I had it written down and then I don't have my notepad in front of me.
Yeah, I can tell you. Yeah, the 10th.
The 10th. Okay, great. Susan is going to help run that one because I will be at St. George Island for the whole month of December. Woo! So yeah, after 4 years, I'm going to take a little time and just kind of decompress. So I hope to be on the call, but I'm not sure what my Wi-Fi and internet's like out there. So we'll get it all set up. And yeah, I think that we're going to have Tabitha Frazier with the Leon Fruit and Nut Exchange as our speaker. She's in the high season right now for gleaning all of these fruit trees around town that no one's picking. She has a big volunteer base that goes and picks thousands of pounds of fruit and moves it forward to the food bank. So a thought would be that we could do a gleaning day with Tallahassee Green Faith Alliance to help her on one of those days. It's a pretty phenomenal program that she has. So you won't want to miss it. Okay, well, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch about the gardening and just be well. Take good care.
Bye.
Thank you.